Yes. Grand risings, family. Hope all is well on this third day of August 2020, man. All right, so let's get it in, man. So this is a testimony, I would say, by a gentleman by the name of Calvin Hennick. Yeah, and it headlines: My wife is black, my son is biracial, but white supremacy lives inside me. Yeah, and family, forgive me for my voice here. I thought I had a frog in my throat, man, but I think I've actually just lost my voice a bit from Emancipation Day settings. You know what I'm saying to you? So yeah, just forgive me. It's probably a bit deeper than normal to judge, but yeah, we're gonna give it a go anyway. So it reads on: My son is 9 years old. He's big and beautiful and biracial. And although my wife and I have always known we would need to prepare him to face racism, we've never talked to him or his little sister about police violence against black people. Not until now. He wept when we told him about George Floyd. His voice shaking, he asked whether the same thing would one day happen to him. My wife and I told him to draw about his feelings, and what he brought back to us broke both our hearts. In pen, he had drawn a white police officer standing in front of a cruiser, holding up a smoking gun and looking down at an unseen corpse. My son had written the words, "Killed me," with an arrow pointing down at his own body, lying lifeless just outside the frame of the page. There's nothing my son can do to prevent this nightmare from becoming a reality. There's nothing he can do to change the way the world will see him when he grows into a tall, broad-shouldered black man. To protect my son and every other black boy and girl in America, white people must change the way our own eyes see the world. We must do the work of stamping out white supremacy where it lives, in our systems and in ourselves. In 2007, less than a year after I moved to Boston, a 22-year-old woman named Kiara Levine was killed by a stray bullet caught in the crossfire between two gang members at a party in Dorchester. I followed the news on the radio for a week or so, never seen a photograph of the victim's face. Unconsciously, I assumed she was black. When I finally saw her picture in the paper, this smiling, pretty white girl with wild curly hair, I thought, oh. There was a lot to unpack in that, oh. Beneath my unspoken assumption about her race was another assumption. She was the type of person who attended parties with gang members. And beneath that, on some level, it makes sense that she was killed. And then even deeper in a dark part of my mind that I didn't even know was there, her life was less valuable than a white person's. When I realized what was happening in my own brain, I shuddered. I wasn't what anyone would describe as a racist. I was engaged to a black woman whom I would marry later and who would become the mother of my two children. But white supremacy had affected me in ways I'd never realized. I've lived my entire life in a world filled with literal monuments to racism, a world where we regularly make unspoken justifications for living on land stolen from indigenous people, for honouring slave owners on our money, for tolerating enormous racial gaps in wealth and education and health outcomes. Even my awareness of Kiara Levine's murder is an example of white supremacy in action. If she'd been black, I doubt the news media would have latched onto her story. Journalists saw her white face, and the same thing that happened in my brain happened in theirs. Of all the murder victims in Boston, this is the one who matters, the white supremacist inside them whispered. This is the tragedy we will talk about for weeks, while the names of murdered black men and women go unspoken. I confess that there's still a part of me that tries to look for reasonable explanations. When I first hear of a black person dying in police custody, so let me read that again, I confess that there's still a part of me that tries to look for reasonable explanations when I first hear of a black person dying in police custody. Oh dear. A part of me looks to explain away the horrible things I don't want to confront. If I'm going to be part of the solution, this is the very piece of me I need to destroy. But how? It's a question I've asked myself a lot lately, and I think there's only one acceptable answer, however I can. I'm going to more actively look for ways to get involved rather than hide in despair when the news makes me afraid for my children's futures. I'm going to take my cues from black activists who know what actions will make a difference in their own lives. Perhaps most importantly, I'm going to recommit to listening to and amplifying black voices, and I'm going to try to sit and stay quiet during my own moments of discomfort when their stories challenge the things I thought I knew. I'm particularly interested to relearn American history from the perspective of the people who lived through it. The version I learned in school was so sanitized, so paternalistic. White people enslaved black people, but then we saw that it was wrong and we stopped. We forced black people to live a second-class citizenship in their own country for another century, but then we saw that it was wrong and we stopped. My wife is originally from Haiti, and several years ago I learned the history of her country. It's a very different narrative. The French got greedy, enslaving so many Africans that blacks outnumbered whites in Haiti by 9-1. The enslaved people took advantage of their numbers and the machetes they'd been given to work the fields. They rose up and they killed their masters and took their freedom. It's one of the most glorious, triumphant events in all of human history, and yet when I read about it for the first time, my hand instinctively floated upward to protect my own throat. Okay, family. So yeah, I thought that was a very interesting testimony. I believe it could be used to sort of counter certain arguments that I continue to hear in these YouTube streets. But yeah, I'll leave you to decide, family. But yeah, so that was a testimony by a Calvin Hennick, and it says, my wife is black, my son is biracial, but white supremacy lives inside of me. All right, family, have a nice day. Look out for some extra pieces.
It's sad that people branded people like me, who's married to a black man, racist, for speaking out and saying, look, this is not going down a good avenue. These people are racist. The things they say are racist. What they believe in is racist. And I was branded the racist for saying that. And I just think, for me, it's just a bit of a piss take. A piss take. This isn't about betterment. This isn't about betterment.
No.
This is about anarchy and destruction and revenge and spite.
Yeah.
And hate. It's all negative. There can never be a positive out of this. Never.
I mean, I wonder how
Raspect himself might be getting used and not understanding that he is, because let's face it, he always seems to be the one that they call upon to actually do interviews and stuff. And now, you know, there's obviously getting that money from somewhere from all this carry on what's gone on at the weekend. You know, like the uniforms, that want to cost a lot of money to all that printed out. And,
no,
you know,
I think Raspect's well aware of what he's doing. Judging from what I've heard over the last few years, the things he said over the last few years about this country and how he feels about this country, I think he is more than aware, Angel Moon, of what he's doing.
Yes.
He hates this country, Angel Moon. Absolutely detests it. I mean, policing their own... Who do they think they're... Oh, we're going to police our own community. I don't think so. They'll end up in gang warfare. Oh, well, you know, you did this to that gang, so... No.
Yeah. I mean, it's already a mess, isn't it, with the stabbings?
Yeah.
It's just a joke. We've now got fucking 50-year-old men, 40-year-old men, 30-year-old men dressed in military uniform. We've got young girls who think they're in the army, but they think the army you shouldn't have an army, but all of a sudden they're dressed in military uniform, wanting to look like they're some kind of militia. This is foreign mindset. Sorry, it is. It's foreign mindset. I'm all
We really
for-
need to track down that manifesto, see what's in it.
Well, it's not online, the manifesto.
Have they got like a separate website online? Maybe they've put it
No.
to a website or something. Yeah, because that's got to be very interesting reading, isn't it?
Well, me and Jupiter know what he thinks about this country, and the people. A lot of the people. Anyone that's white is automatically, a racist or worked for the empire. The Queen apparently has chandeliers that get cleaned. I mean, the man is a fool. And to think he's part of this, what next? Are they going to get armed next? Is that the next step?
I mean, yeah, he's whipping up hate, and if it's true, if some white guy was talking like that, they would have been arrested. In fact, this wouldn't have been allowed to have gone on, would it?
Can you imagine if the Tommy Robinson supporters turned up looking like that?
I know.
The annoying thing is that our extreme right has encouraged this because people like Ralph were encouraging respect. I'm sorry, you got to say it. They were encouraging them because they were extreme like they were. They were extreme right, so they were encouraging it. And it's going to come back to bite them in the arse, isn't it?
But I'm thinking, everybody must think, oh, Brixton's this and Brixton. What about the ordinary people of Brixton that don't get involved in this ridiculous clown world? Do you know what I mean? I wonder what they thought.
I don't know what takes a 2 or 3 year old kid on a march. I don't understand that.
I know.
I don't understand. I feel I can really, really empathise with Phil because, to me, he's in a similar situation to what me and Hector are. We just feel stuck in the middle, looking at all this madness, thinking the nutters on the right, the white nationalists, the extreme white nationalists are fucking nuts. The extreme black nationalists are nuts. The extreme left are nuts. The extreme Islam are nuts. And, yeah, like I keep saying, the middle needs to rise up because these people are on the fringes. There's not really the numbers. I mean, some people that are watching this, yeah, it is frightening to think that the road they're going down, and anyone with a brain can see the road they're going down, but they haven't got the numbers, and believe me, the state will come down on them at some point, but they're not at the moment, and you have to ask what is the agenda and why not.
Exactly. Because this is inciting, like what Phil was saying, it's inciting division, and which will cause, heading towards the race war, isn't it? This is what it is.
Well, exactly. That's
Phil's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like people like Phil and like Jupiter and kids and that, they're stuck in the middle. They are stuck in the middle of this because, he's radicalising the minds of these people with his rhetoric. And it's, most of the people probably like Phil that don't even think like this. You know what I mean? Just getting on with their life.
Well, let me just put
happy and grateful to being in Britain.
Yeah, this is not black betterment, right? This is not. Everybody involved in this will now be watched. They'll be put on a watch list. I should imagine that once the violence starts happening, their houses will start getting raided. There's going to be problems out of this.
You see, but I think they've got the mentality that they think they can't be touched. I really do think they have that mentality.
Yeah, because the mainstream media are going with them, aren't they? Mostly.
Yeah.
Well, because at the moment, it's pushing segregation. Someone's just wrote that in the side chat, and that's exactly why extreme white nationalists are sitting back and saying, yeah, go with it. we're going to get segregation out of this. That's what they think. It's not going to happen.
No.
But what's going to happen is that we're going to have a lot of pain to get through this, because it's going to cause a lot of division, a lot of heartache, a lot of trauma for all the communities. But it will be stamped out. It will be stamped out, and we will come out the other side of it. But this is just ridiculous. I just don't understand why they're allowing it to get so far. And the people that are running it, see, but Raspex put himself in a good position. Because if you look at things like the IRA and things like that, eventually when they find some way of controlling it, the ones that are always the biggest ringleaders and instigators always seem to be end up to be rewarded. And that's probably the biggest mistake of it all. That he'll probably be okay, but all these other people that he's leading like sheep will end up being that get curtailed or hurt, or their families hurt because of it. But I will say this, they do not represent the majority of the country.
No way, no.
They do not represent the majority of the black community. And more, just like we have to, when it comes to the grooming gangs, you know, Raj, eventually zoomed in onto one area. I think what's becoming very, very obvious is that this zooms in from a small community of black people, sad to say, from a certain place or certain heritage. There will be others, but in the main, we know what it's all down to reparations.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to listen to a bit more?
We can do.
Yeah.